Every couple of years, it seems to me that we're asking black people to save this country. In the last election cycle, we asked black women in Georgia, please save us. In this election, we're saying, dear black men in the suburban counties outside of Philly, please save us. If we're gonna ask that every couple of years, it's a fair question to ask guys that look like me, start handling your boys. Start handling your boys. I look like I stormed the Capitol, but I did not. But I know a lot of guys who did, and f those guys. It's time for us to start calling these assholes out. The people that are threatening democracy are not black, they're not Muslim, they're not immigrants. It's dudes that look like me. We gotta start calling these assholes out every single place that we find them, because f them. I believe in this country, I'm a veteran of this country. Waving a flag and screaming at immigrants don't make you a patriot, it makes you a coward. This country, we are the true patriots because we don't hate everybody just because they're different. We gotta get this, listen, I'm not gonna sit up here and be like, oh my God, Kamala, hooray. I'm voting for her. I'm not happy about what they're doing in Gaza, in Lebanon. I'm not happy about what's happening. I'm married to a Palestinian. I am not happy about this. But we have two choices between a woman that we can work with or a fascist.
Labor leader and veteran Daniel Vicente breaks it down for folks that appreciated our narrow escape of a Donald Trump re-election once, but forget that they can participate in rejecting confused fascists like the former president again.
But we're close to World War II because we have people in the White House that World War III. Thank you. Thank you.
He uses World War III as such a standard scare tactic. It's surprising that he gets it confused with the global conflict that was incited by, according to General Kelly, his political inspiration Adolf Hitler. It's the one thing about his authoritarian dreams that he'd like to keep a secret.
Kamala and her campaign is that everyone who isn't voting for her is a Nazi. We're Nazis. You know, years ago, my father, I had a great father, he's a tough guy. He used to always say, never use the word Nazi, never use that word. And he'd say, never use the word Hitler, don't use that word. It's like, I didn't even know why, don't use that word. And then I understood it. And yet they use that word freely, both words. They use it, he's Hitler. And then they say, he's a Nazi.
So is Trump trying to make Nazi and Hitler some new racially charged slurs that people aren't allowed to use? It tracks with the party that likes to suppress history so that it's easier to fool citizens while they attempt to pull the country back to those times and belief systems. But if he hates the name Hitler and the word Nazi, he should start with reprimanding his running mate and his most loyal supporters.
You've said, I'm a never Trump guy, never liked him. Terrible candidate. Idiot if you voted for him. Might be America's Hitler. Might be America's Hitler. Might be a cynical a-hole.
Look at those beautiful swastikas. There we go. White power. Hell Trump. Yeah. Make America white again. Woo, woo, woo. We're out here in Jupiter. Loving it. Loving the good weather. Blue skies. Woo! Make America white. Let me see that sign, brother. Let me see that sign. There we go, man. My Pillow, 1488.
I'm thinking maybe old Fred should have told little Donnie that he shouldn't embody Hitler and Nazism instead of just avoiding the words. The idea isn't to avoid calling anyone those names, it's to keep anyone else from identifying the former president for who he is and the objectives of the movement that he's cultivated. Can anyone explain why so many Donald Trump supporters are comfortable flying Nazi flags and tossing out Nazi salutes while talking about ridding the country of all N-words and Jews? They know who he is because he's proven it to them.
But Kamala is labeling more than half of the country as the enemy combatants, and she's calling them all fascists and Nazis, okay? But she's a fascist, okay? She's a fascist.
It's odd that this guy can put a microphone in front of his face every day and spew plans to use the military to attack his political opponents, repeatedly calling them the enemy within, only to turn around and claim that Harris is calling people enemy combatants. He'll complain about being called a fascist after proposing policies that the Nazis carried out, only to then stand in front of a bunch of people wearing red hats, calling his opponents fascists. So in Trump world, calling out fascism is fascism.
We had stupid generals like Milley and Mattis, weak, stupid people. But fear not, we have great generals, just not the ones that you see on television all the time.
John Kelly directly. He said some things about you, essentially accusing you of disparaging American soldiers in an Atlantic article. When's the last time you talked to him, and how would you like to respond?
Years ago, I fired him. He was a bully, he was a bad guy, and he ended up being a weak guy because all bullies end up being weak. And he wasn't a smart guy. It's a bad combination. But I fired him. He made a statement that I'm like Hitler. It's just couldn't be further from the truth. It's just the opposite, actually.
Do people not realize that his immediate reaction is to discard the life and service of some of the most respected military leaders that worked for him? And that it actually checks out with the accusations that they've made about him? That when he calls anyone that finally decides to expose him stupid, and that he has other generals that are better, it confirms the story of him daydreaming about having generals as loyal as Hitler's.
Look, you have a great military, and anyone who says otherwise either never served or wanted to serve, dodged their service, or don't know what they're talking about. So I can assure you, from private to general, you have an exceptional military that is highly trained, very well led, very well equipped. Right now, you're running probably about 100 to 150 ships in the oceans of the world, keeping the sea lanes safe for commerce. You're running about probably 5,000 sorties of aircraft every day. You've got 180,000 U.S. troops deployed in about 100, 120 countries around the world, maintaining some degree of stability. That's not happening because of pixel dust and magic dust. That's happening because of well-trained, well-resourced, well-led troops around this world. And many of them are in harm's way. So every single day we should be thanking the lucky stars that we have young men and women that are willing to answer the call to the colors, because they're out there on freedom's frontier every day, allowing you to be bankers, allowing Americans the right to vote in next week, allowing Americans freedom of speech and the right to protest and so on and so forth. Those rights, the down payment for those rights, the down payment is the blood of American soldiers. And that has been paid for 2.5 centuries. So you have every right to be proud of your soldiers, your sailors, your airmen, and Marines, because they're the ones on a day-to-day basis that are providing the environment for you to enjoy the freedoms that we have.
And isn't it telling that Donald Trump doesn't like that message? That he thought Milley should be executed for going through appropriate channels to discuss the stability of our country with nervous world leaders after MAGA attacked the Capitol. So, as usual, everything starts and ends with rule number 1 of Donald Trump's Republican Party. Never admit that he lost and project his traitorous actions on Democrats.
But what I'm concerned about in terms of stress is the left's reaction if Donald Trump gets elected, because they talk about how Donald Trump is a chaos candidate. The only chaos is the chaos that they create, whether it's get in their face and don't let him into a restaurant, or, he's this, he's that. That's what I worry about. I would like, if Donald Trump wins, and I'm hoping he wins, I would like that people just be calm and accept it.
January 6th would like a word.